Okay, I saw the most amazing interview this past week on the Candace Owens Show, sponsored by PragerU. It was Candace Owens talking to Imam Tawhidi. It was a very interesting and a riveting interview. I learned a lot. Now, of course, the leftists watching this channel are probably radicals, so they're probably the same kind that want to go after Imam Tawhidi. But anyway, so I learned a lot, and it's good to have a conversation because we want to know where we stand and what's going on. And like I said, I positively learned a lot from that interview, so I definitely recommend it. I'll include the link in the description. Now, you're all worried about so-called Islamophobia. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I think listening to the news is enough to cause it. Listening to the news. Of course, actually, we haven't had too many terror attacks. That's a good thing. But listening to the news, I mean, starting with 9/11, I would say before 9/11, probably Westerners were not very conscious of Islam and the Middle East because they were over there doing their thing, we're over here doing our thing. But I suppose we've been a lot more conscious of it ever since. So basically, just listening to the news is enough to scare you. So I don't know what you're talking about people spreading Islamophobia. I mean, they're either facts or they're not. Or they're either terror attacks or there aren't terror attacks. And, well, one thing I was glad he cleared up, I hope he's right, he said that the only ones who are in danger of being killed are Muslims who want to leave, not necessarily the average person. Which that's a good thing, because I seriously thought that just everybody who is non-Muslim, they're totally out to bump us off. And so yeah, so hopefully that's right. I mean, of course, you still have the problem of, like ISIS and the individual terrorists. You still definitely have that problem. So I guess maybe they are going by a different reading. So there's still a lot of trouble and mistrust, but and also some excellent points he made on that really reinforce what this channel is about. We are anti-left. The left is bad, full of bad people, fakes and hypocrites. He said that ISIS is ISIS is better than the left, and the left is worse than ISIS. So how about that for a profound statement? Because ISIS is not organized, but the left is. Now, that is a very profound statement, and I think that is a good point. And another point he made is that all the radical Islamists, they all vote left. They do. All the radicals. So that shows you which party is radical. I said also, the leftists think all the criminals are going to vote for them. So what does that tell you? The left is the party of criminals. It's obvious. But so I know many of you watching, especially the leftists, think I am completely anti-Islam because I am a Tommy Robinson fan. Well, of course, I am a Christian, so I do not believe. I'm a Christian, so that's that. I'm not in those circles. Now, as far as society goes, I said even Tommy Robinson is not exactly anti-Muslims. Baloney. He gets along with people. The left is just dumb and fear-mongering, so they are. Now here's my position about everybody getting along in society. I know people say, even the Imam said Islam is not reformable. Of course, hopefully more people will go for the more peaceful reading. But I mean, we do acknowledge that Christianity has had many bad times. The Protestants killing the Catholics killing the Protestants, the Puritans killing the Quakers, and I'm sure there's many other instances of, Christians killing Christians, but we'll get into that another time. So we admit that Christianity has had problems over the years, but we have mostly conquered that, and these days we don't kill each other. So that's good. So I suppose some people maybe are hoping that that same thing will happen with Islam. It will also become more peaceful like the Christians, but we'll see. Now, here's the thing. I think people could live peacefully together if the laws were enforced equally and firmly. But the intersectionality and the weakness, the absolute weakness of our leaders has rendered that nearly impossible. Because they want to say people are better because they are a victim, and they're better because their skin is this color, and they're better or worse because of this and that. And if the law is not meted out equally, and justice is not meted out equally, we can't live together because, one group is going to beat up on the other. And obviously human rights need to come first. I mean, who would think that people would be so bad as to disregard human rights just for some political points? But that's evil. That is evil. And it's obvious that there's culture clashes with Islam and the West. But the bottom line is, if they came to the West, if they want to live in the West, they have to go by the laws in the West. And if we all live by the same laws, this is how America has gotten along all these years. Because all these people from all different backgrounds, all different cultures, we all go by American law. And that is how we got along. Everyone obeyed the same laws. But now the left is making it so some people don't have to obey the law. And even some laws that are human rights laws, they don't have to obey. They're like the left. I mean, we saw what happens in England. They're willing to sell their kids down the river for intersectionality, sell them to rapes and murders. It's just unconscionable. So the bottom line is, if Islamists had to obey the same laws as the rest of America, we could get along. Obviously, they're doing a lot better in America than in Europe because we have been mostly getting along and the laws are mostly being obeyed. So that is good. So if we all obey the same laws and all the laws were enforced, everyone treated equally, we could get along. So I know many of you say that wouldn't work, and we'll see. I know I'm not being soft. I'm not being soft on Islam. No, I'm not. I'm not being soft on it. But I'm just saying they just have to obey the American laws. Whatever the Americans are not allowed to do, they're not allowed to do. We have freedoms. And the point is, we need to keep our countries free because there are people who are escaping persecution in these countries, especially in the Middle East. There are people escaping persecution, and they come to Europe or they come to America for freedom. But what happens? They get grabbed up by some radical group, and the radical group enslaves them again. So they escape the where they were to find freedom, but then they are still in bondage because there's groups in these places that control them and take away their freedom. And we can't allow people within our Western countries to take away the freedoms of others. We can't allow that. And we can't allow people in our own countries using their freedoms to take away others' freedoms, like those ridiculous outrage mob journalists. We can't allow that. So we need to start growing some spines and some courage if we are to all get along. So the bottom line is, I am not necessarily hostile to Muslims. No, not necessarily. I just think they just need to obey the same laws as the rest of us here in the West. If I went to their country, I would expect to have to obey their laws. Bottom line. If they come to our countries, they've got to obey our laws. I believe in giving everyone a fair shake. A fair shake and a fair opportunity. And conservatives, we do not care what the color of a person's skin is or their religion or their sexual orientation. We just care that they are peaceful and they obey our laws. And they live in peace. That's all we care about. Okay. There's my position. So, bottom line is, countries need to enforce the laws and make sure everybody gets a fair shake. Human rights got to stay paramount, and we'll all get along. All right. Thanks for watching. Let freedom ring.